Good morning, I'm Juanita and welcome back to the Knit Guru. As always, we have a Valentine's Day project that's going to fill me with joy. This is a hot water bottle cover. Here in New Zealand, we call our hotties, well, we call our hot water bottles hotties. So I thought what could be better than a hottie cover for your hottie this Valentine's. This is knit flat with colour work in a chart and then it's stitched up the side. It's a really easy make. What you're going to need to make this is you're going to need some contrasting yarns, around about 50 grams of the red and about 25 to 30 grams of the white, or whichever way you want to work it. 100 grams of yarn is going to be more than enough for the whole project. Yeah, you can make the tie in any shade you like. I've just used a scrap of the red yarn for that. You're going to need some 4.5 millimeter needles, a stitch marker, because when we knit this flat, we mark up the side. Well, I mark up the side so that I know where the half mark is. You're going to need a pair of scissors and you're going to need a darning needle, and that's going to cover off all the things you need to make this hottie cover for yourselves. You can find the pattern down below, as well as the most important part of the pattern is this chart. Now with this chart, that's going to show you where you're going to knit your different coloured stitches. I've gone with red and white here, where red is the main colour, because I find that white gets dirty a little bit too easily around my dog. But the pattern you'll notice is white with red writing. You can do this any way you like. I was tempted to do pink and red. I was tempted to do pink and white. But in the end I settled on red and white because I've just put in we're just putting in a red kitchen. So, you know, red appears to be the colour of 2026. Right, grab your needles, grab your supplies, and let's get working on this hottie cover. All right, so everything you're going to need to make this project is going to be down in the description below, as well as a link to the pattern and the charts for this hot water bottle cover. First of all, though, we're going to cast on 60 stitches on 4.5 millimeter needles using this DK yarn. I'm using Red Hut. This is just a cheap wool yarn. Wool is definitely recommended for a hot water bottle cover more than like acrylic. Then I recommend putting in a stitch marker at the halfway point. So after 30 stitches before the 31st stitch, and that way you know where your increases and decreases are going to be without having to do some actual maths. So basically what we've got is we've got some rows of increasing at the very start where we're going to create this curve on the edge, as you see here. Well, you might not be able to see it very clearly here because this is sort of one increase in. But it's going to have an increase on each end and then this double increase in the middle around our stitch marker. And that's going to allow us to fold our hot water bottle and have that curved shape at the bottom. Fold the hot water bottle cover, that is. So you can see a bit more of the curve shaping in here now, and then a little bit more here. So it's getting there. It's getting there. So then we're going to be following our chart. Now our chart starts with basically 4 rows without anything, and then we're introducing a second colour. Now I'm just using the scraps of this white DK yarn, and I'm following along on the chart. For the alternating rows of colour, I'm just carrying the stitches up the side, or carrying the yarn up the side. But when it comes time to do the hearts in the center, what I've done here is I've rolled off some smaller balls of yarn so that I don't have to carry any floats across the back of the hearts themselves. So the hearts are being done as intarsia, I think, where it's a separate ball for each color. So you'll need like one separate ball in the middle and then one for each of the white sections and then a red for either side. So then we're going to form our little hearts in the center. And once we've formed our little hearts in the center, what we're then going to be able to do is cut the yarn off, the white yarn off again. You'll see it's just been wrapped around the back of the stitches there, just counting across. I've only put the pattern on one side of my hot water bottle cover, but by all means you can do two. The most important part at this point your tension's not too important. You still want to keep it loose so that it's going to fit your hot water bottle in the inside comfortably. If you're working with a really tight tension, you'll probably want to size up to a 5mm needle. And then for this section where it says Hottie, you really want to make sure that you're not pulling that yarn across the back tightly. You want a lot of movement in those stitches, just so that it doesn't pull in during that section. Because here what I'm doing is I'm carrying the white yarn across my red knitting. So I'm pulling those floats across, but I'm not pulling them tightly. Now you don't need to wrap your floats on this project because it's just a hot water bottle cover. Once the hot water bottle's in there, you don't have to worry about anyone sticking their fingers through the gaps or pulling it out of place or distorting it. So don't stress about wrapping your floats at all. Once this hot water bottle cover's been through the wash a couple of times, you are going to find that those floats are going to felt in a lot more. So you are going to want to keep a loose tension and only wash this hot water bottle cover in cold water. So here we can see it says Hottie. That to me just makes me laugh hysterically. At this point I showed my partner and he chuckled, which, is pretty much par for the course with that man. He tolerates what I think is funny, that's for sure. And then we've got a couple of stripes here at the top. Once we get through our alternating stripes, we're done with all of our colour work and we're decreasing. Now our decreases take place on the sides as well as in the middle where our stitch marker is. So we're decreasing just as evenly as we were increasing before. So then what we're going to do after we do our decreasing is we're going to start working on the ribbed section around the neck. For this ribbed section, we're working a 2x2 rib. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to rib about 6 rows. You can pick how many rows you want to and where you want to put your row of holes, or if you want a row of holes at all. So then to create this row of holes, what I've done on the wrong side is I have purled 2 together and then gone yarn over all the way across the row. And that's given me a row of holes, and then I've come back and restarted my rows of ribbing exactly the same as they were, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, all the way along. Now I'm going to keep this up until I've got a total of 24 ribbed rows. That includes both before the holes and after the holes. And then I'm going to cast off the stitches within the pattern. So I'm casting off the knit stitches as knit and the purl stitches as purl. And at this point, you've finished the knitting of the project and it's just there to sew it up. All right, so where are we up to in our hot water bottle cover? Honestly, you have to make yourself one of these, if nothing else, because I'm just deriving so much joy from it. What we've got is we've got a seam down the middle. I have only put the words on the front. I have not put the words on the back. Do keep in mind you need to make sure that your tension is loose and that your floats are wide. You don't need to catch your floats. You can if you like, but I don't bother catching my floats unless it's going over more than 3 stitches. What we're now going to do is we're folding our hot water bottle cover in half, and you'll notice that you've got a curve on both sides when we do this, and we're going to stitch up using our yarn tail across the bottom, up the side, and through the top. Once we've done that, we can darn in all of these hundreds and hundreds of ends, which I'm going to do now, and we'll be able to have a look at what our hot water bottle looks like in our hot water bottle, or what our hot water bottle cover looks like, because I've got to go and get my hot water bottle. And soon we're going to we're going to have the most hilarious hot water bottle cover in the history of the universe, and you're going to be the super cutest person around Valentine's Day. Yep. That's my plan. That's my plan. Right, I'm going to stitch this up. Yep, I'm now just stalling, let's be honest. So here we have it. This is our completed hot water bottle cover. And it says Hottie, and it's a Hottie cover. I don't know if people call it Hottie elsewhere in the world, but here that's what we call it in New Zealand. So as far as I'm concerned, this is the most hilarious Valentine's or Galentine's Day gift, because if you can't snuggle up with someone you love, you may as well snuggle up with a Hottie. Honestly, worth it for the lols. So if you would like this free pattern, I will link the pattern down below, as well as you can follow along this tutorial, and it's a really easy chart to follow. All you need to do is make sure that you're keeping a really loose tension, because anytime you're doing colour work, it's going to pull the stitches. You can choose to wet block this if you so desire. I have not bothered, because who cares? It's a hot water bottle cover. It's going on a hot water bottle, and once the hot water bottle's in there, it's going to pull out, as you'll see in the end cards. If you want to see my Valentine's Day projects from previous years, I'll link a playlist down below, and YouTube thinks you're going to enjoy this video up here in the top. And if you want to stick around and see what else we're going to create this year, click the subscribe button. In the meantime, I will see you next week. Bye.